I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Having a good Labor Day weekend so far.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. You ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely. So, what's the featured question, Megan, today?
All right. So today's feature question is, I received an RFE stating that my evidence lacks relevance, probative value, and credibility, both individually and within the context of the totality of the evidence. How should I address this?
Wonderful. The question has three aspects to it. Somebody has received a RFE that is saying it lacks relevance. Second, a probative value, and third is a credibility. Now, how do we tackle with this? That's the whole question. The first, understand that whenever we give any evidence for the purpose of your EB1A, it has to fulfill the required evidence standard under preponderance of evidence, which basically states it has to be more likely than not. That's the first and fundamental thing. I'm not going into detail of that, what is preponderance or something, but it is more like it fulfilling the criteria that 50% probability of the event being correct, actually, or the fact being true. That's the whole idea behind for the EB1A jurisprudence. Now, the second aspect here is that relevance. Let me give you an example in this. Let us say, for example, and it has to also fulfill, by the way, something called as federal rules of evidence standards. So, if the US, the Congress has passed a law that's saying that okay, what should constitute a standard of evidence, and it has to fulfill that. Now, let us say, for example, you are giving a printout of a website which is talking about you. Now, people would just give a printout of that or a PDF of that and take a print of that and send it to them. Now, ideally speaking, the sources on each page has to be cited. We have seen typically people who get RFE, they get RFE for this purpose, because if you just give a printout without the hyperlinks or the sources, stating the sources, the USCIS may not like to consider that under the evidence standard.
Right.
So they will definitely state that you have to understand the context behind it. They're not going to tell you a specific piece of paper does not have a web link or something, because it's already stated in the federal evidence standard or the USCIS regulations that okay, fine, or certain case laws that certain standards of evidences should be there. And ideally speaking, if you have a good lawyer, he can definitely help you to scan every page. But typically, USCIS, EB1A petition runs into 2 to 3,000 actually pages, and we have even seen some petitions are going into 4,000. So it becomes a very complex legal document. And from that page, someone going through each and every piece of document is going to be very tricky for you actually to see that. So having said this, the best course of action is you have to understand what kind of evidence means for the purpose of EB1A, and it has to be relevant in a sense that it has to be for that specific criteria, for that specific purpose what we are talking about. Second is about probative value. It means that it talks about the probability of that, and obviously it needs to be credible. Credible in the sense that even if you are giving, let us say, a recommendation letter, some people don't even give the details of the resume of the person who is giving that recommendation letter. Some people, have to give. Ideally speaking, someone should give the contact details and communication channels of that person. And if the address is not there, that does not. So immediately, let us say there is a recommendation letter, let's say from Megan Vickers to Ranjeet Mudholkar about recommending me for EB1A, and it just says Megan Vickers. It will lack relevance. It will lack probative value. It will lack credibility in one shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
These things, and one can go into and talk continue, because EB1A is all about evidence, is all about documents. So one can always keep on going this. So if you have got RFE on this particular aspect, it would be always with reference to specific criteria and the specific documents. So you just have to see that, okay, what evidence is matching with that particular criteria, and whether those document that you are submitting is as per the evidence standard, federal evidence standards actually, and that should be all. So, unfortunately, I'm sure you can address this. I've seen very, RFEs being converted into a positive responses, and I'm very sure that you will be able to do this. So, wish you all the best.
Wonderful. Thank you for that detailed response. Next up, we have an anonymous member asking, I'm a bit confused about how to differentiate between original contributions and scholarly articles for the EB1A application. Given that I have 3 research papers published in Springer Nature journals, one patent, and 10 other IT-related papers published in various journals, can I categorize the Springer Nature papers and the patent as original contributions? Also, would it be appropriate to present the 10 other papers as scholarly articles? For context, I have around 100 citations for the Springer Nature papers and the patent, and 59 citations for the other papers.
Okay, a very deep and incisive question, and let me try to break this down. You see, I have always been saying, and I would like to elaborate this also at a very deep level. I have always been saying that original contribution is one of the most challenging criterias that one can choose for. I have also believed so far, because I have seen over 1,000 AAO cases, rarely I am yet to find a single case wherein or RFE or NOID or something somebody receiving that original contribution has been approved and EB1A not being received. So one can very safely say that if you get approved the criteria by USAIS, which is original contribution, one can possibly get closer to getting EB1A. So that's my take on that. Now, also at the same time, I have also been saying it is one of the most difficult criteria to get fulfilled. Now, original contribution can be manifested in two ways. Number one is you are doing a critical role, and from that critical role, you kind of create an impact outside your company by virtue of patents or other things, and you get appropriate expert opinions or something, and you can kind of manifest your role in your company towards original contribution. So that's one way that happens. And the second way that can happen is that you write a scholarly article with this gentleman is saying, or a lady is saying that, okay, from a scholarly article, can it be deemed to be a original contribution? Now, to establish a scholarly article as an original contribution, there needs to be a very good impact factor. Now, when I say impact factor, it is not about the impact factor of the journal, but the impact factor of your work that is there, and it has to be contributing to the field. For example, if you write an article, there has been some application of that by somebody, and that application can be demonstrated as an evidence, and there has to be some success metrics out of it. It cannot be just mere theory. Remember, I would rather say that if you have 3 research papers published in Springer Nature journals, and if it has some impact outside, in a sense, some kind of an application, then you should definitely go for original contribution. If it is solely, only by virtue of only citations, it just shows that it is a very good scholarly article. Without knowing the fact, I don't want to say that number of citations based on whether it can manifest as original contribution, but I would rarely say that. Actually, it is very, very rare. So I would stick to it that if you can produce evidence for an application of your some work which is written by you in a journal, stick to it being only as a research paper, as a scholarly article. Patent definitely would be going as original contribution, but it would make sense again if there is an application of that. Without application, patent by itself has no relevance. I think it is about IT related papers, but I'm very sure there would be some application. But don't write that, because if original contribution is not fulfilled, there was a lot of case laws also which I have seen, because it's really very difficult to get this criteria approved. So that would be my response. 100 citations. Well, I don't want to take, call myself expert to an extent that depending on the field, citations value always change. So for some field of expertise, 100 citations may be very good, and for some it may not make any sense. So that would be my take.
Right. Well, thank you very much. And on to our next question from another anonymous member. How can you demonstrate that the citations for your work are unusually high in your field, or how do they compare to other articles?
Oh, exactly. I think that's a beautiful question, because it is a follow-up of the previous
Right,
question.
exactly.
Exactly. Now, having said this, I mean, there is no, kind of a straight-jacket response to this right now. How can you demonstrate that citations for your work is higher? It depends on field. So, for example, somebody is in genetics or nanotechnology or some kind of a child oncology, let us say neuro-oncology, something like that. It could be, there may not be many citations, because people are, how many people are working in the body of knowledge that you have to see, how many institutions. So more narrower your field of expertise is, it would be very difficult. You have to compare. Now to establish the justification of a high citations or something, I have always suggested one thing. And Megan, I think I always tell people in our program also that somebody, if you can get some kind of a expert opinion letter who is supposedly higher expert than you, it would make a lot of sense actually. So if you get some expert opinion letter from somebody who is kind of vouching for you or saying that, oh, fine, Megan has written this paper. I came across this paper. It's very wonderful. In fact, I've seen that some of the people, even they write articles written in D-Zone or something, they were really very profound. I think the profundity could be established. And if they are really very high, I think it will spell out. Imagine some professor writing a recommendation letter for you stating that the article that Megan has written in the field of so and so is wonderful and it has helped so and so, it can create an impact of so and so. I think that would be wonderful. And also that person stating that, okay, I have read over 1,000 articles and I find this article very interesting. I think that's what I would like to state, that there needs to be some kind of a documentation on your article.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Next question is from Deep Singh. He says, I have a few questions from a newbie regarding papers. 1, how can I get citations for my papers since I don't have control over who cites my work? What steps can I take to make my papers more impactful? I'll let you answer that, and then I'll give you the 2 follow-up questions.
Okay. I mean, I have a very simple response to this. I mean, if you want more citations, I mean, I don't want to give a formula to that actually. Of course, there are ways and tools and techniques that can possibly help you to create an outreach for your paper or the work that you have done to certain academic circle. That is one way to look at it. And there are certain tools available for that. Sorry. But having said this, I think it also matters that when you write certain paper or some kind of an article, you need to understand. I mean, I'm going a little step before you even write something, that what is the problem that you are trying to solve? Has it been tried before? And what I've seen, that people who genuinely follow this approach, it's not writing articles for the sake of writing because I want articles so that I can apply for EB1A. It would be in very bad taste actually, and I don't think that will make any sense. So the question is that you are an expert in a particular field. So what is the quality of an expert? What does an expert do? Let's understand that. Expert is good at solving problems given a situation. That's the purpose of being an expert. Okay, a doctor is an expert in certain things. Okay, you go to pediatrician, he's an expert because he can solve some problem. What is that problem? A kid is sick, he can solve that. So you as an expert, what exactly are you up to? So if you have identified a problem, and if there are a large number of people who are having that problem, and if it is there, I think that would make more sense. And then citations is a matter of techniques, but I would strongly advise people. I think we had a session also, and today also I wrote a post on that, be very ethical about it, and don't try to kind of manufacture success for the purpose of your EB1A. It starts from certain citations or buying certain things and all. Don't ever try to do that, because this will kind of haunt you later on. We always talk about in the program, and to outsiders also, everybody else, that please follow a very ethical and method with integrity for the purpose of this. This is how the papers can be more impactful. I always believed, I had a lot of articles which I wrote, not necessarily scholarly articles, but general articles which I saw that people reached out to me, and people were more than happy for me to publish papers or write articles, but it was based on the meritorious disposition of what I wrote about in financial planning, that which was my expertise. So keep doing a good address a situation or a problem which involves a broader audience, and that would be all I would say then.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, he says, are journal papers viewed differently compared to conference papers by the USCIS? I understand that journals are impactful from an academic perspective, but I'd like to know how they are perceived by the USCIS.
It's a beautiful question, I would say that, Megan, because I would just like to call upon, I think there's some policy update. Let's call it a policy update. USCIS had come up where even a submission of conference papers would be deemed to be a more of an academic submissions. or journal papers. So in my view, it would be, if you have done some conferences where a paper has been submitted, it would definitely be at par with a journal submission. But depending on the quality of the conference and the attendees, definitely this would also make a difference. Like journals would have a different qualities, this particular kind of paper, this kind of a conferences, who is the audience, who is the organizer, would make a difference. uh, Having said this, there is, I don't want to comment or kind of say that okay, would be viewed differently. Suppose if you are going in a conference which is attended by a lot of academicians in the field, or some people related to your field who are experts themselves, it would definitely make a lot of sense actually. So wish you all the best. If you have been invited to some conference, please take up the opportunity. Don't lose that.
Great. And then the third part of this question, the third and last part, how can I publish papers quickly as someone who is just starting out?
Well, I have always said that there is no shortcut to success. I mean, it's not about, it's not about you publishing papers deep. It's about actually, you trying to solve some problem. You don't publish paper for the sake of publishing because you want EB1A green card. I would always suggest that, okay, identify a problem. I said before in the first part of my question, other question actually, if you're trying to, you are an expert, sharpen your saw, keep on continuously sharpening your saw. And a good journal would always have a good peer review processes. I've seen many of our students in the program, they write, and sometimes a good journal would even take 3 months or 4 months to get something published. Um, it's not about, trying to have some shortcuts, or, okay, I want to publish papers quickly, because blogs are not considered, something on some public blog or something is not considered to be a publication. Ideally, a good paper to be accepted by USCIS to be considered as a scholarly article, it would always be, a peer reviewed or reviewed by an expert in the field, who preferably should be of a higher stature than what you are expecting yourself to be, or at the same level, if that would be the case. So let's take a last question, Megan, for the day.
Okay, great. Last question is from an anonymous member. Can I apply for NIW and EB1A at the same time? Can I use the same evidence for both the petitions, like recommendation letters, awards, etc.?
Well, the answer is yes and no. Evidence standards are different. The purpose for NIW is different. The purpose for NIW, the criteria are both different. Yeah, you need to be definitely, okay, let's understand NIW is part of EB2, which is profession based, and EB1A is expertise based. So there are two different things altogether. Second, it's EB2 is about exceptional ability, EB1A is about extraordinary ability. Number two, second difference. Number three is EB3, the letters of recommendations are given for a national interest waiver, which is waiver for PERM certification. EB1A is for you being at the top of your field of expertise. So the tonality, purpose, and objective of both the letters for both the purpose is going to be very different. Yes, of course, there is certain homogeneity that will converge in terms of what are you exactly trying to do here. I mean, for example, you can't just copy and paste a letter which has been used for NIW for the purpose of EB1A. It will simply not work. Then I think let's go back to the first question then. Imagine if you pick up a letter, okay, and same letter which has been used for NIW, and you put that into EB1A, then you will receive then you are likely to receive an RFE which will state that your evidence lacks relevance, probative value, and credibility. I think that was our first question, am I right?
Right.
So I think you will come back to that. So don't try this kind of, let's have a, they need to be each of the petitions is going to be a different element altogether. So let's take it one at a time. So that will be all, friends. So Megan, thank you for having me here. And friends, if you have any questions, please write to Megan or I. If you want to join the Next League program, we are happy to help you in joining the program. And if you want to participate in the show or send us questions, we are more than happy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any further questions or need personalized guidance, please reach out to us. We are here to help you every step of the way in your journey towards achieving your American dream. Let's connect and make it happen together.